We have the distinct honor to speak with you, His Excellency, the President of Republic of Latvia, and we have several questions. What your impression of the summit? Why you decide to participate in it personally, and maybe you have already some insight, decision, or discussion?
Well, frankly, better than I expected. I think that's my first impression from the proceedings of this summit, the way how we are discussing peace for Ukraine, how we are discussing the need to have a very strong international pressure on Russia to stop the war, to restore the territorial integrity of Ukraine within its internationally recognized borders. But I also see that there are very legitimate points and arguments that are raised by our friends and partners in Africa, in Latin America, in Asia. I think that this is a very good exchange between leaders. Number two, I do believe that this summit is actually bringing Ukraine back to the global stage. In a way that, let's not forget that because of October 7 Middle East events, attacks, Hamas terrorist attacks against Israel, the ongoing situation in Gaza, other things, also to some extent attempt of the Russian diplomacy to somehow put, let's say, more countries out of this process. I do believe that this is also where we see that there are many countries that do support Ukraine, that do support the need to have the political process. Why I'm here? Well, because we have always supported Ukraine and we are going to support Ukraine till its victory.
If I understand correctly, you said that Carthage must be destroyed about Russia, if I quoted you correctly. Today and yesterday we hear that a little bit shift of rhetoric from a military defeat of Russia to negotiation. You feel this shift, or it's just my personal opinion?
Well, this is a very broad platform for discussion. And let's face it, we all understand that Russia is going to sit at the negotiating table only when it feels that it cannot achieve victory, which is the defeat of all the goals that Russian Federation has put. We remember a speech by Mr. Putin just a couple of days before 21st of February 2022. We all here do believe that the process that we are about to start here in Switzerland is going to take some time. I have said to the Latvian TV yesterday that my calculation is 1-2 years, and we still have the primary peacemaker, that's a Ukrainian soldier that is fighting against Russian aggression in Ukraine. We still have the situation where we all understand that we need to supply Ukrainian armed forces with all kinds of weapons, armaments, ammunition. And only if Russia sees that it cannot proceed militarily, it will start talking. One interesting twist has been actually those peace proposals, in brackets I would say, that Mr. Putin has put a couple of days, like asking Ukraine to leave all the territories that he considers his own, which is of course complete nonsense, and of course the promise of Ukraine not to become the part of NATO. So you see that actually there is also the shift to some extent and the attempt to derail the political process here by the Russian Federation. But let's not forget, here we have countries that are supporting Ukraine. There are countries also that want to have some political process, and that's why you are hearing very different views, and that's normal. If you really want to have a political process and broad discussion, then you have to accept also that there can be different points of departure when it comes to this political discussion.
If President Putin were here at the summit and would participate, what would be your personal message for him, your reaction to his plan?
Well, my personal message to Russia has been the same since 2014, not even 2022. And that's very simple. In order to restore peace and security in Europe and indeed in the globe, Russia should get out of Ukraine.
What next steps do you see after this summit, and which steps could ensure stability, prosperity of EU, of Ukraine, of all Euro-Atlantic region?
I think this is the good basis to start using all the international organizations, be it the United Nations, be it OSCE, be it negotiating instruments on bilateral level, to say to Russia that this is where many UN members agree. I don't expect a huge breakthrough in coming days or weeks. Let's not fool ourselves. I think that 2024 still is going to be very difficult. As I said, a lot depends on the success of Ukraine's military in Ukraine. A lot depends on the political process in the United States, elections, the French elections, the way how we are going to establish the new European Commission. But I'm pretty confident that the European Parliament, the European Commission is going to be more or less in the same position when it comes to the practical and political support of Ukraine. Then we very much hope that Ukraine and Moldova both are going to start negotiations with the European Union, the practical steps. But I do hope that this summit is the first step. It will take time for diplomats to work out, let's say, more detailed ways how we address humanitarian issues, political dimension, and then probably at some point, who knows, in a year's time, maybe in a lesser extent, we can gather here, maybe also with countries like China, like other countries from the global south that are not here represented either at the leaders level or not represented at all, and we can probably try then to form more coherent position. And who knows, as many are asking here today, that Russia needs to be part of this process, and maybe if we can forge united position, then maybe the second summit could involve also Russia. We'll see.
As you mentioned, a lot will depend on election, and in particular, I think, depend on election in EU. How you in EU, the last election, what you think about their result, and you said about EU. Yes, you said have said about EU Commission. And now there is a lot of discussion about position of High Representative for Foreign Affairs and possible creation of position of some Commissioner for Defense. And from your opinion, maybe it's the right time to how would say, to guarantee this position for Baltic states who actively involved in defense and foreign affairs.
Well, I'm quite confident that the current EU electoral outcome and the new European Parliament is actually better news than many people were afraid before the actual elections happened. I think that those political forces that have been supportive of Ukraine, supportive of more, let's say, political focus on defense, they have gained a majority. Now, the most complex thing, the discussion about who is going to be the president of the Commission, the president of the European Council, the president of the Parliament, and the High Representative are going to take part. What I believe that, yes, I can agree with you that there is a high time that one of those positions go to countries that are from the Baltics or from Central and Eastern Europe. And I think that we have very strong candidates. Some of them have been mentioned, but I believe that for the European Council to decide, because the Latvian Prime Minister represents Latvia in the European Council. But in principle, we very much hope that there is going to be also the regional representation in the European Union. And yes, indeed, I think that the creation of the Special Commissioner for Defense is the right step. But let's face it, bureaucrats really love to create positions. Bureaucrats really love to work on strategies, plans, visions, and so on. What I would say is the most important, that the European Union really concentrates on putting more emphasis on its own defense capability, more defense spending, and more military industrial capacity needs to be, let's say, created to help Ukraine, but also to help us. If Defense Commissioner can do that, if he or she can mobilize the entire European Union to spend more on defense and to produce more equipment, military equipment, I'm all for this.
From your point of view, Kaja Kallas could deserve this position.
We will not comment before the European Council meeting on those issues, but I think that she is an excellent candidate for that or another position within the European Union if she wishes to be there. But let's leave it for the heads of state and government of the European Union to convene and to decide.
The last questions. The military defeat of Russia is still the precondition of peace and stability in the region.
Let me put it in a bit different way. The victory of Ukraine is the precondition for the stability in the region. Because we could argue for hours with my distinguished colleagues here, or with journalists, or with experts, what the defeat of Russia means. I would say it's much easier for me to describe what the victory of Ukraine means, and that is that Ukraine is back to its internationally recognized borders before 2014. Thank you.